Hornet already. Look at you.
Okay. So how are you doing, Mr. Morrison?
I'm doing fine. I just got through a wonderful class, rhetorical criticism, and rhetorical theory and criticism. So it was a good class with my students.
I'm going to start off by asking you, what was it like studying at Howard University?
I enjoyed my time at Howard, and I enjoyed it even more so given that my undergraduate degree was from the University of Alabama in Birmingham. That was a predominantly white school. Then I went to the University of Alabama. That was also a predominantly white school, or traditionally white institution. And so for me, I had a chance to do the HBCU experience really on the back end, so to speak. But there was nothing bad or backwards about it. It was just the way that my academic life has transpired. And so it was great. It was like the culmination of all that I learned, because now I got a chance to learn, for instance, communication, but from a Afrocentric or Black perspective, if you will. And so I loved it. I mean, and then the fact that I was older, living in DC, I had a chance to appreciate DC. I've come to appreciate DC and Howard more since I've been away. But I really enjoyed the history, the culture of the institution, the history of the behind the School of Communication there. It was a good 4 years of my academic life. I love it.
Seeing that you've been here at Alabama State for 16 consecutive years.
Yeah, about 16, yes. Look at you, doing your research. Woohoo, yes.
What's your favorite part about being a professor?
Is watching my students learn, watching them come in as freshmen, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about communication, and next thing I know, they're out there in the real world, on television, at the mic, leading a communication department as a communication director of some sort. So yeah, watching my students grow and develop. I think we are measured by our fruit, the kind of fruit that we produce. It's not about us as individuals. It's not about, and it's very easy as professors at times to get very caught up and think that all that we do is about us, and this is really not it. We're in the end judged by the fruit, good or bad. And so watching my students develop in a good way and go out there and take on the world, it makes it worth it. That's what I love most about it.
What advice would you give to someone like myself in the communication field?
Learn all that you can about communication. Learn it all the different areas. Learn, yes, communication studies, but learn mass communication and all that it entails. You want to have a holistic view of the field and not one narrow area. What we need now are generalists. We need people who can understand communication from a variety of situations, variety of contexts. And so, yeah, that's what I would want my students to know. Know that, yeah, the writing, the speaking, the critical thinking, there's some key tools that you develop in our field. And I want to see them blossom. So the degree to which they develop those tools, they're going to be successful. So that's what I want to see them do, be successful.
As a professor, how do you continue to grow?
How do I continue to grow? Staying current in my field. I still go to conferences. I still publish and do research. I think I learn from my students. I try to stay open where, if I'm really teaching them the communication the proper way, then I'm going to learn from them. And so I think that keeps me current, keeps me up to speed and up to snuff, so to speak. I'm trying to think of a particular situation related to communication it probably won't come to me. But I'm always learning from my students, too. And so, yeah, staying current in the field by researching, but also learning from my students. Yeah.
In our last class, you said something about that you go thrifting a lot and you pick up different artifacts.
I do.
What's one of your favorites that you picked up?
Oh my goodness, why would you ask me that? What's one of my favorites? For someone who's eclectic, it's hard because I have so much in my collection as a pop culturalist and in our business. What is a favorite? Probably a book, or in general? What in general? Oh, my Mr. Potato Head.
Explain.
Mr. Potato Head was a very important childhood toy. Again, dexterity, how to take your little fingers and put the eyes in the eye spot, the nose in the nose spot, the mouth where the mouth goes. Or, to be creative and just mess all of that up. So I think early on, creativity for me, because I was going to take Mr. Potato Head and do what I like to do with him, my eye, the mouth spot, mouth, nose. But at the same time, knowing I could put together Potato Head and do it well. It's a very just important toy that now I bring into my media classes and teach them that it was the first toy to be advertised on television, 1952. And so, and created by my favorite toy giant, Hasbro, which I've had a chance to visit Hasbro, where they work their magic. Yeah, it would be Mr. P. So many, but you put me on the spot with that, so I have to go with one of my childhood favorites, Potato Head. I love Toy Story. I thought it was a wonderful way in which they brought Mr. Potato Head and all those toys to life, and they gave Potato Head just this personality that, really gelled with me. It was kind of no nonsense, kind of potato. So yeah, Potato Head.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the app Rate My Professor?
I have.
Okay. I've noticed that you have a lot of great reviews.
My, really.
How does it feel to receive a 4.9 out of 5 rating from your previous student?
Oh my goodness, I have. It's so interesting that you would mention that, because back to audience feedback and what do your audience members think of you, your students. I hadn't been out there in a long time, in a while. Not that many times since COVID. Now that I think about it, I do periodically go out there and look, because if I'm doing a good job, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a teacher, then again, it's measured in the end by those kinds of responses. And while many of my colleagues and people would say that, Rate My Professor is not scientific, et cetera, and no doubt it's not, it is one that your peers and students really take to heart, and you really use it as a gauge in terms of whether they like a professor, should take a professor or not, or whatnot. I'm blessed. I'm blessed and humbled by it. That's what he said, 4.9 out of 5. You made my day again, because again, we're judged by our fruit. We're judged by our fruit. And so, if the fruit feel that way, there must be some kind of content in the lecture that they got from me that they should, or some life lesson or some nugget that they got. So I'm very humbled by it, and it makes me feel just appreciative. And so, yes.
I see that you spoke at Montgomery's first ever Urban Nerd Con.
God, you really have done your research, you journalist, you. Yes, last summer. What about Urban Nerd Con?
Do you have a favorite Black action figure?
Okay, it would be G.I. Joe. It would be G.I. Joe. One of my first figures growing up, right along with Mr. Potato Head, was my Black G.I. Joe land adventurer. And I have him to this day. And that was a very important childhood toy that now continues to be important. One that I've written about in my research in terms of Black military masculinity and is one that, our business, we sell Joes. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's been a movie, it's been in commercials. They've had G.I. Joe with Barbie in the past and commercials. And so, yeah, it's, in terms of, the whole idea of action figure and not a doll in terms of naming comes about through G.I. Joe, that it, so that, it's boy toy, that boys could play with action figures, and so that name comes about. Hasbro was very ingenious with having some really creative people on staff who got the whole naming part that was going to, so that it would appeal to boys. And so I can remember, early on, action figure, it's kind of that stuck with us throughout, and very, very important toy that still is important to me. A lot of play value. I played, backyard army with all of my Joes, black Joes, white Joes, all of them together. And so, in the sand pit, in the dirt, put them in their vehicles and sending them down hills, crashing. And so it's interesting now, 40, 30, 50 years later, we as collectors want all a part of our childhood again. And it's the same with our business, with people who seek those out. They want a part of, or want to revisit that part of their childhood again, because it was meaningful and significant in their growth and development, as it was in mine. And so they seek those things out. And so, it's a classic. It's a classic baby boomers toy, G.I. Joe. And Hasbro was smart enough early on to create a black G.I. Joe, and he looks African American. He's not like the white version of a black version of a white figure or whatever, but they took time to uniquely make him correctly. So, yeah.
Do you believe that black action figures are significant to our culture?
I do. It is very important for our children to see images that look like them. Very good. And we talked about that at Urban NerdCon. It's very important that they see, and their minds are shaped by images that look like them. It's important for them to, I think, on the pop culture side, see a superhero, a Storm character. I love Storm of the X-Men. And to see that not only the Storm, she looks like me, but she has superpowers. And I can have superpowers too, whatever that looks like. Superpowers in my school work, academic work, what have you. And so, right, I mean, Mattel got that one right early on with Barbie, that again, young black girls, African American girls need to see images and their minds molded and shaped by that. So very important, very important. But did I have white Joes, a lot of white articulated figures, some before I had my black Joe? I did, but I'm glad that my parents saw fit to give me both. Because that's the world. The world is diverse. The world is a multitude of people in the world, and so, my toy collection and my figures reflect that.
Do you think that AAVE, African American Vernacular English, is just as important as standard English?
Oh, you've done your work. I do. They both go together. Most things in life, Ms. Shaw, are not either or, but both and. Both and. Both African American Vernacular English and standard English, or as I like to say, which I learned at Howard, competitive English. You use that language that allows you to compete in whatever arena you find it in, of which it might be an arena that looks like a need for African American vernacular that will allow you to compete. So no, they go together. And so when I've taught linguistics or language and culture and communication, I make sure to get across to students that you need to know both. You need to know the language of the sweets, but there's nothing wrong with understanding the language of the streets, the language of your culture. And you need to understand code switching. code switching, which I've had a chance to write about. You want to be able to, what's the context, and then what's the appropriate language, verbal and nonverbal. Is it competitive English, standard English, or is it African American vernacular that will serve me well in this context? So that I've got both in my tool bag. I just need to understand what context I'm in, what environment I'm in, what the situation I'm in, so I can pull out the appropriate tool and function. And so, yeah, it's not either or, both and. And so usually my students come with me with the language of the community. It has many names. And so I try to take them another further. If they come to me, Johnson, he cool. Okay, we say that in the community, and then, but I'm gonna take him another further. So you need to get that verb in there and say, he is cool, she is cool, but he cool, she cool is legitimate. Subject, comment. It's a West African structure. Subject, she, comment, cool. So you've been saying that all this time in the home. How can it be wrong? Been saying in the home, how can it be wrong? However, I need you also to be able to say, he is cool, she is cool. Subject, verb, object. Standard English, competitive English too. And so, yeah, they both go together. And I teach both.
Okay. How do you feel about the correctionist approach?
Oh my goodness. You read my piece there on code switching. The correctionist approach has its place. I mean, I grew up being corrected by my mom. If I, said, this, that, those, and them, and so it's just not important to cut them off too hard at the head with it. Yes, correct them, but show them other possibilities, other ways, as I've said. Subject, comment, West African pattern. It's a language if it has structure and function. Structure I learned while I was at Howard, and that's a legitimate structure, it's just different. Subject, comment, subject, verb, object. But function does allow folks to make comment, to carry out their affairs. So I'm just not going to leave them, I'm correct them, but also explain to them that, the language of the community, the vernacular, African American vernacular has its place. But yeah, I had two parents who were teachers, so the correcting part was a part of it, not ending a sentence with at. Where y'all at? I mean, we may say that, but you don't end a sentence with a preposition. I made a mistake once. As a doctoral student, we were going to lunch of saying that, and I got corrected by one of the professors. It might have been Dr. Milborn Cummings, my major advisor, who just said, you don't understand where that. It's like, oops. Oops. So yes, very important, but explain all of it, both sides of the linguistic spectrum to someone.
I'm always the same way. I couldn't even say aunt. Ain't.
Oh, really? Yeah, ain't was another one. Yes, ain't was one there that now is in dictionaries and whatever. Yeah, it's amazing. You say it long enough and loud enough, next thing you know, it's legitimized, particularly if it's in the dictionary. But yes, we all were slapped on the hands.
Lastly, can you leave us with one quote that you live by?
One quote that I live by. Dr. Morrison, straight, no chaser. I'm gonna be straight, no chaser. That's me. I mean, it's, I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear, whether you wanna hear it or not. It's the best way to be. And in this season of COVID, both literally and figuratively, I felt a need to do that even more, where I've been blindsided by people I thought I knew professionally, or students or what have you, manipulated. And I said, no, try to learn from my situation, learn from the experience, but you know what, I'm gonna be straight with you. If you're right, you're right. If it's wrong, it's just wrong. And it's better when you're that way, when you're just straight, honest, because some people aren't ready for the truth. But you just need to tell them anyway. Still need to tell them the very thing that they maybe don't want to hear. And because if you don't, it's not good. It's not good. You know, when students, you got to be honest. Okay, you write, or you can't write. And if you can't write, if they're having some writing deficiencies, because I'm not going to pass you on, then accept that, and then let's go get some help. I'm not going to leave you there. I'm not going to just say, okay, you got some writing deficiencies. This is not good. I'm going to say that, but then I'm going to point them in the direction to get help. You know, so I just think that's where we are, because far too many people kind of just led on, pacified, pushed on. You know, behaviors validated by others to be correct, when in the end that's not correct. That's not right. Sometimes people know it's not right, but they're too far in it to accept the fact that they made an error. And so, you know, yeah, straight no chaser.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome, and thank you for the interview. And thank you for doing your research. Boy, you're the last person I need to have asked that question to in class today. You have done your research on Dr. Morrison, as you should. Very good. You've made my day.
I'm glad I could do that.
No.